Okay, now, does anybody know what a ghetto is? For real. Now, I know you all don't like to listen to me. So let's go and see what the white man says that a ghetto is. Okay? No, this is in the dictionary. Okay? This is in the dictionary. Listen carefully. A quarter of a city in which Jews were formerly required to live. I know. See, I know how you all think. That wasn't even important. Many of you probably don't even get it. You don't think that meant nothing to you at all, did it? The definition of a ghetto is a quarter of the city in which the Jews lived, in which they were forced to live and designated to live. And don't you understand who the Jews are? The Jews are you black men and women out there. You are the true Jews, according to the scriptures. Now, many of you have moved out of the ghetto. Some of you live in Beverly Hills. Some of you live in Bel Air. Some of you live in upstate New York. Some of you live in rich rural areas in Jersey. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of you live in nice areas of Pennsylvania, suburban Philadelphia, right? Now, I want you all to understand, okay, that the purpose of a so-called ghetto was so that they can bunch all you niggas in one place. Now, what's the purpose of me saying this? So, you get a whole bunch of Negroes in one place. These same Negroes, these same black people that have been breaking the laws of their Elohim for thousands of years. Today, you Negroes still break the laws of Elohim. Okay? Simply by being a divided house. And always have it, because, see, listen, many of you men out there, I'm going to say this, and I know this is going to make many of you angry, but many of you are pussy, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay? I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Okay? Matter of fact, I'll tell you now. Okay? First of all, okay, I don't see any of our men, okay, speaking about the Ku Klux Klan. Many of you get on the internet and you say all of these things about your brother, say all these things about your sister, whether it be directly or indirectly, whatever the case may be, right? The first cowardly act is on the internet. I tell you, I'm not doing or saying anything on the internet anymore. That I got to stay away from that. I've been staying away from it. I'm going to continue to stay away from that. No man or woman should do anything, say anything crazy over the internet. The internet is heavily watched. And they have informants that are black men and women, just like you and all, who are so-called with the culture. And they are paid big money now to come on this internet and say, well, look, this woman, she doesn't like him because of such and such and such. This guy, he doesn't like him because of such and such and such. Even though he's never mentioned his name, even though she's never mentioned her name, blah, 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 and blip, blip, blam, bloop, bloop, blop, and bloop, blip, blap. And then they tie those two people together. And then if something happens to one of those females or something happens to one of them men, the FBI will be right at your doorstep. or if you are doing any incriminating yourself, if you're doing any type of illegal acts with anybody, somebody may be your partner or whatever or whatnot, or whatever the case may be, any type of fraudulent activity, whatever the case. They are on the internet and they are watching, and for the white men that they can't pick up certain things, they hire black informants that are better off out here, that are better off out here, that are better off out here amongst their own people to entrap, set gins, to snitch and to watch and to spy on. And then you have, and I'm just saying, this is happening from New York to California. You know what I'm saying? See, one thing I need you all to understand. I need you all to stop being weak. Never have I ever came on the internet and have directed anything toward anybody or spoke anything about anybody in particular. You have to understand, on the internet, everybody's doing the same thing. So if you say something, just like when I speak about you rappers, I'm not going to speak about you rappers individually. In other words, this message is not going to be towards so-and-so and so-and-so and Sip Sam and Soup Sop, right? It's not going to be about blip and bloom and blam, right? It's going to be to every single last one of you rappers, especially those of you foolish rappers who've sold your soul. Now, many of you hate me because I keep saying that. Some of you even come on the internet and you say how fast I will die, or, well, you're not talking about me in particularly, but that's one of the foolish things that rappers do. And many rappers are very, very arrogant, and I'm going to explain to you why they're arrogant, why you all are arrogant, and the problem, the brainwashed, how you're brainwashed, and how you're a very negative impact on your people. Okay? But this is supposed to be our culture, right? I don't care what any of you say and what any of you think. Okay? So, us niggas are the Jews. And us niggas are in the ghetto where we're supposed to be. A quarter of the city in which Jews are forced to live. Now, there's a reason why they want us to live amongst ourselves. What's one of the famous things that the Ku Klux Klan say? Because none of you say anything about the Ku Klux Klan. None of you got the balls and the nuts. Y'all quick to come on the social media and tell all of social media how another one of your brothers or sisters will die quick, or how another one of your brothers or sisters will get shot, or how another one of your brothers and sisters will get stabbed. But your nuts don't hang low enough to say that about the Ku Klux Klan. Maybe your handler won't allow you to say these things. So, I want you all to pay very close attention to what I'm about to say here. JFK, let me go ahead and say this first. Now, JFK was a white man. I understand that. But JFK had to die. Let me tell you why JFK had to... let me go ahead and read this out. JFK, when was he assassinated? I just have some names down here. JFK. I can't remember what year JFK was assassinated in. Okay. So you have JFK, you have Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and you got the Black Panthers. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1964. I wasn't born yet. I think maybe John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1964. 1963 or 1964, one or the other. Okay, I know it was after 1962. So John F. Kennedy was assassinated either in 1963 or 1964. Now, here's why John F. Kennedy had to go. Yeah, he was a white man, but this is why he had to go. Because he was for equality. Now, there's two types of equality. There's an equality that a white man wants, and there's an equality that a black man wants. The power structure, the elite, they don't want either equality. But they will certainly not want a white man, especially the president. Do any of you have any idea how powerful John F. Kennedy was? JFK was? JFK was extremely powerful on our level, as far as us men, bleeding blood and breathing air. He had influence beyond measure from all four corners of the planet. And when JFK, when he got hip to the power structure and what was going on in the upper echelon darkness of the government, he made a speech. Now, there were speeches prior to this speech, but I want you all to go to YouTube when you get now. Many of you are going to take this the wrong way, okay? But many of you aren't sharp enough to understand his speech. Now, I'm not trying to speak down on anybody. If you go to the speech and you're going to understand what I'm trying to say. It's not for everybody, okay? Now, I'm not trying. No. Everybody's not sharp. I want you to go to YouTube and I want you to type in JFK Society's speech. Society speech. Okay? That's what I type in. And when you do that, you'll get it. Okay? JFK was an extremely intelligent man. But, well, he had worldly intelligence. But he also had spiritual intuition. That's what made him dangerous. Not his worldly intelligence, but his spiritual intuition is what made him extremely dangerous. John F. Kennedy had the law written on his heart because he was for the people, all people. And a lot of you don't know, Betty White that just passed, she took up for a black man one time. I don't know whether he was a singer or a comedian. I forgot what he was. But she brought him on his show. She had a talk show, I believe. You can look it up. And she brought this brother on her talk show. And, of course, the racist white people, they ain't like it. And because they didn't like it, she brought him back. Betty White. Right? Is that her name? Betty White? Not Betty White. What's that lady that just died? Was it Betty White? I can't remember her name. She played with the Golden Girls. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I might have her name wrong, but her anyway. She just passed. Rest her soul, right? But she brought the brother back because, listen. All white folk ain't wicked. All black folk certainly ain't wicked. All Arab folk ain't wicked. Listen, that Chinaman don't like you, okay? But I have to say it because it's true. All Chinaman ain't wicked. But he don't like you, though. Even all Amalek ain't wicked, speaking to the circumcision. Not all of them. You may got one, two stragglers around here somewhere, right? I actually know one of them that tells the truth, right? Well, nah. But, let me not lose my train of thought, right? So the society speech, right, it's just not for everybody. Not everybody's going to pick up on what JFK is trying to say. But he's uncovering the secret societies. Now, we're not going to get into that because that's not what this message is about. John F. Kennedy, he was assassinated in 1963. I believe November of 1963. Okay? Now, he had to go because he was for equality. Now, I'm getting to something here. Just hang tight. Okay? All right? Because a surge happened. A surge happened, and what do I have here? A surge happened, and the United States government, the elite, did not want this surge to happen. Okay? And I'm going to explain what type of surge. It was a rising. And I'm going to explain what type of rising that was in a minute. And JFK had a lot to do with it. Okay? JFK had a lot to do with it because you got to understand, this was around the times of segregation. And many of you don't understand. See, segregation had its strong points and it had its negative points. Okay? The strong points about segregation, which brings me to Martin Luther King. Okay? Now, Martin Luther King was another powerful figure. So you could call Martin Luther King, now he wasn't the Messiah, right? There's only one king of Israel. That's Yahushua HaMashiach. But many of you all, if you want to use the terms just for the sake of the argument, you could consider Martin Luther King a black Messiah. Okay? So, what was he? Okay, so he was a black Messiah, right? Okay, so Martin Luther King was considered a black Messiah. Okay, now do understand, right? Martin Luther King, when was he assassinated? April, right? Sometime in April 1968, right? April 5th, 6th, or something like that, 1968, was the assassination of Martin Luther King. Now, Martin Luther King's another one that had to go. Why? Now, mind you, there's a very strong uprising going on here, okay? I'm going to explain that in a minute. I'm not going to forget it because it's the basis to this segment. Martin Luther King. Now, what? Because I told you, you have a white man's wanting to bring people together, and then you have a black man wanting to bring people together. A black man Martin Luther King's trying to bring people together didn't start off. A black man's bringing all people together is not as strong and equal to a white man bringing all people together. Why? Because the white man is the oppressor. So if he attempts to bring all people together, that's more of a threat because it's coming from out of the oppressor's mouth, which will heavily bring an influence to other oppressors to change their mind. A black man trying to bring people together, well, now don't get me wrong, he can oppress the opposing forces as well. He can influence the opposing. A black man can influence the opposing forces as well, but it won't carry the weight as if a white man is influencing his own people. Now, you niggas already listen to everything the white man says. So when the white man speaks, not only is he going to make some of his fellow men turn the cheek and become better people, but he's going to bring all you niggas along with him. Because why? Because all you niggas do is listen to people. That's all y'all do. Y'all listen to people. If you can see him, you listen to him, right? But he or she has to meet a certain swag or a certain whatever the case, right? So you do understand that Martin Luther King, right? Yeah, he was assassinated April April 5th, 1968. April 4th or April 5th. April 5th, 1968. So Martin Luther King had to go because he was trying to. Now, Martin Luther King was also doing the bidding of the government. He wasn't doing his own work, which is another problem. See, you have to understand something. You have to move with Christ. Why? Because if you move in your own footsteps, right, you're going to scatter the sheep even further. Martin Luther King says then, I think I've integrated my people into a burning house. The scriptures tell us as a nation to be set apart. But now it even tells you you have to be set apart amongst your own people. Why? Because a house divided against itself cannot stand. And us as a people are a divided house. So you can't even trust niggas. Niggas can't trust niggas. It's not like the Arab man saying, hey, Abu Da, hold this $1 million for me. I'll be back to get it. Do that with a nigga. Just saying. Chung Lao saying, Ying Mang, hold this 500K for me. Put it in your basement. Be back to get it. Give it to Kareem. See what happens to it. Karen saying, oh, Jessica, hold this $60,000 for me and I'll be right back to get it. Give it to Tamika. I'm just saying. Right? So, I'm just saying. So now you have to be set apart amongst niggas. But what the purpose of the scripture was trying to do was, with our forefathers, Christ constantly speaking to prophets and constantly speaking to prophets to bring this gospel to you all, noonday and at night, right? That we all give you these messages so you all can hearken and then turn back into Elohim so that we can be a unit. But that's an impossibility without destruction, without death and destruction, because you all have a diamond hard. You all are diamond hard in your thinking. You won't budge. It's crazy because you all know the truth and you still won't budge. So Martin Luther King had to go because, remember, there was a surge going on, an uprising, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. Okay. Next, we have Malcolm X. I don't have to look at it because I remember he's the other name on there. Him and then the guy Hampton from the Black Panther. I believe Malcolm X and Hampton were both killed in 1969. Okay? I think they both were killed in 1969. So, now, as long as Malcolm X was listening to falsehood, as long as he was listening to falsehood, okay, he was fine. As long as he was under the payroll and he was adhering to the foolishness, everything was good. He goes over to Mecca. He learns the true Islam, okay, or he becomes a Muslim. Because Muslim, an actual Muslim is like the beginning stages. It's attempting to become you're attempting to reach repentance as Muslim. That's actually the novice stage. You're becoming a believer. Okay? Then you go mu'min and whatever the case is. I think it's 3 stages till you actually become a believer. But when Malcolm X returned from Mecca, right? When he returned from Mecca, he brought the truth. Well, he brought something that was closer to the truth than what he already was speaking. what he was speaking originally was very far from the truth. And then when he went to Mecca, he got to understand something a little closer to the truth. But it was actually a lot closer to the truth than many people think. Now, I want to tell you all something about Muhammad Ali. And believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Muhammad Ali did not get that speech impediment because of being punched. Okay? Now, Muhammad Ali took a lot of punches. He took a lot of punches. Okay? But that's not what really did it. Okay? Muhammad Ali got to a certain point in time after his retirement where he would go to a lot of talk shows around the world. Muhammad Ali he had great spiritual competence. And he started using the word God instead of Allah. Now, that's a little bit deeper than many of you all think it is. Because within his heart, he was converting. Okay? So, I have reason to believe that Muhammad Ali, they wanted him to stop talking. And so he was slipped something that gave him that impediment, that speech impediment. Okay? After he retired, he didn't have that problem. Some people may say, well, it happened slowly and gradually. And I'm not ruling that out as a contribution. But other things occurred in Muhammad Ali's life. Okay? And he too had once followed foolishness. Okay? So, you have to understand that there was a surge happening. Now I'm going to explain to you what it was. Black people were working. During the 60s, during the early 50s, into the late 60s, black people were doing pretty well. Even though it was segregation. They had jobs. There wasn't really anything to stop us from, well, I'm not going to say early 50s, okay? But during the 60s, when JFK got into office, that posed a problem because equality was happening and black folks were rising in the economic system. As the segregation started to break, niggas became entrepreneurs, niggas had jobs, and so to the point where our wives were able to stay home like the white boys' wives. The power structure said, no. We can't have that. John F. Kennedy is for black people. Martin Luther King obviously was. Now don't get me wrong. Even though Martin Luther King was an agent, he was. But I can't take anything away from what he really wanted for the people. He really did want these things. He just got caught out there. Malcolm X wanted the same thing, and the Panthers wanted the same thing as well. So they all had to go. I'll be back.